It opened my eyes to the fact that people who I really looked up to, like administrators of the university who were educated people and holding important positions, could be liars and cheats and people who just pandered to interests that had nothing to do with the good of the students or the good of humanity. And I didn't know that. I had always thought if you went to college and you were in a high position, you must be a really good person. And then I discovered that wasn't so. So it opened my eyes to that, and from that point on, questions of social justice and who's running things became pretty important to me. And there was also the aspect of working with hundreds of other people for a similar goal and all being on the same page with that. That was inspiring, and you never forget that. It's really important. And a lot of us have remained active all through our lives. I've been a solidarity worker in solidarity with movements, in liberation movements in Central America for many years. And I was a member of the first Venceremos Brigade of the Americans that went to bust the blockade against Cuba in 1969. And that was big time kind of news. And so I've been a supporter of Cuba all of these years. The free speech movement kind of planted a seed that grew for other things. And a lot of us have had those experiences of remaining active, some in the field of health care and trying to get single-payer health care, some in universities trying to get adjunct teachers decent wages today, things like that, where people who were part of that movement have remained active, and we've made some progress over the years in various ways. We tend not to make a lot of money, but we make a lot of friends. To get those people who were supposed to be upholding things like our Constitution and our rights as students to observe those things and respect them, and to pay attention to us and to what was right instead of paying attention to the right-wing politicians who were telling them to shut us up because they didn't like what we were saying, because we weren't supporting their candidates for office. That's what it was really about. One day you arrive at Sproul Plaza, you come across Bancroft, and you come onto the campus, and there's a car in the middle of the plaza, and you look at that and you say, what's going on here? So you come over closer, and there's a guy in the car, and they've arrested him for doing nothing more than sitting at a table and trying to get people to participate in social justice movement to support the rights of black people and their right to vote in the South. And they've arrested him for that. And somebody said, sit down. And so all of us who were standing there sat down. And there we were. We had captured a police car. It was irresistible. Who would have thought that such a thing could happen? So that's how it started for me, of the awakening of, we can do this. And that was the first expression of our power. And that was, they could capture our student, put him in the car, and arrest him and try and take him away, but we could stop them from taking him away. And that's what we did. So that was exciting. Wouldn't you have wanted to do that?
Probably, yeah, because authority is always seen as the most powerful than the people, and the people don't have a voice against them. But with what the movement proved is that it's like the whole opposite thing.
Yeah.
It's like they don't know that they're in power because we're giving them power. It's like we're giving you power, but if you do something wrong, we can take that power back. Because you have your job and you have the power to do this because of us. But don't misuse your power against us.
Have you all ever read the Declaration of Independence?
Yes.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary to take that power back, it's right there. We've got that right. Yeah. Well, I sat on a couple of committees, but to tell you the truth, I was scared of the leaders because I was very inexperienced. And as I said, I had run away from home. I didn't have a good home life, and I didn't have a good background in, I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't know anything about anything. And those things were never discussed in my home. And so here were all these leaders who seemed to know everything. They knew how to talk in public, and they knew how to understand everything that was going on. And they scared me. Except the principal leader of the movement, Mario Savio, he was the guy who talked to the nobodies, to the people out on the sidelines like me, who really needed an interpreter of what was going on, and he interpreted it. And that's enabled me to be a part of the movement and feel like I understood what was happening, because he was gifted that way and committed that way. He later became a teacher, and that's what good teachers do, is they care about the people who need attention, who need to be taught things, not the people who already know everything.
So Mario Savio was like the person that said, if you don't get this, I will help you. You don't have to go along being scared because you don't know it, or nobody's helping you to get this. I will help you if you do.
But it wasn't like he was singling us out. That was how he spoke about everything, in ordinary terms that ordinary people could understand, and interpreting, not just relating what happened in a meeting, but interpreting it for you. That's what those guys are doing, and here's what they ought to be doing. And this is what they said, and here's what the reality was. They're lying. And I wouldn't have understood if I had only heard what the administrators were saying. I wouldn't have understood that they were lying. And he not only told you they're lying, but explained to you what the lies were against what the realities were. And we had the newspapers, which were completely distorting our movement. So we were able to see that the kind of adult world and the public media didn't tell the truth about what was going on. So it was a question of where is truth in all of this? And he was somebody who was able to show you where truth was and to help you see what the people who are lying were saying. Almost 800 people were arrested. Never in the whole history of the United States had there been such a large mass arrest of people. And these were white, middle-class people who came from educated and rich families. These weren't hoodlums getting arrested. These were respectable young, the future of America getting arrested. So the whole country sat up and listened. And yeah, everybody else, I would have been arrested too, but there were many hundreds of us who supported the movement and were not arrested. You didn't have to be arrested to be part of that movement. And the movement continued after the arrests, of course.
Do you know for how long they got arrested?
They were only held for a day or so. They weren't held for a long time. And I worked on bailing people out. We raised money on the outside, and we went out to Santa Rita, and we brought people home when they were released. I was part of the group, the support group for the people who got arrested.
Do you feel like if the majority of the people who got arrested were white middle class people, if they were minorities, do you think the free speech movement would have been as successful?
Do I think it would have been what?
As successful?
As successful
If the whole world paid attention to the minorities getting arrested than white middle class people.
That's a good question, because I think it was their appearance. If you see the pictures, everybody's in their nice little outfits. It wasn't like today where you wear what you want. It was very regimented almost, how people dressed and all. And they short hair and cut and trimmed, and if the boys had a beard, it was all just nice. The appearance of respectable middle-class people is, I think, what caught a lot of people's eye. If you saw the stills in the movie on Selma, the people who were demonstrating in Selma and in Montgomery and in the South at that time, I think that having white people together with black people was an image that was also new to the United States at that time, and that was important. So the image that was projected did have an impact. And in our case, it was the image of the middle classes revolting. That was what the image was. Well, let me tell you about a particularly powerful experience for me during the movement. Men who had been members of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade, which was an American contingent of armies fighting against fascism in Spain during Spain's Civil War in the 1930s. They called themselves the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. And they came to campus during one of our rallies, and they spoke to us. And they told us that they were proud of us because we were standing up for what we believed was right. And that's what they had done in Spain to try to fight fascism and try to stop Hitler. And that we might not realize it at the time, but you're making history, they said. What you're doing is making history. And I had never thought of myself as a part of history, or any of us. We were just young people and students and, not important. And it made me understand that we were important, that people who would take a stand could be important and were important. It's like Malcolm X said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Mm-hmm. And we were standing for something, and that's historically significant. And that really impressed me. And I looked up to them and I thought, if these old guys, old mind you, they were like 25, 35 years younger than I am now, but to me they were very old at the time. If these old guys think that we're doing something important, they should know because they've been part of history. I had read books about them. I knew they were part of history, and they were saying that so were we. That was impressive. And it's true. We were. And you are. We all are if we're participating. But we're not if we're not participating. We're just doing our private little thing. that doesn't have important historical consequences.